and welcome to Cheyenne Mountain Zoo. My name is Miss Dawn, and today we're going to explore the Rocky Mountain Wild exhibit and check out what kind of animals that we would see right here in the wild in Colorado. Are you ready? Let's go!
So right when we walk into Rocky Mountain Wild, we start our adventure by checking out our Mexican gray wolves. Now, Mexican gray wolves are a subspecies of the larger gray wolf that we once saw in Colorado. The last known population to have lived here, though, was last seen in 1939-1940. But since then, we haven't had any full-time populations that have lived in the state of Colorado. Our wolf friends also tend to get a bad rap. We are getting the chance to see our pack up close right now because the keepers had just recently put their food in their yard up close in front of the glass. But generally, it's pretty difficult to see these guys because they tend to be really shy and shy away from human interaction. Unfortunately, back in the day when bison started running out, that was one of the main sources of food for wolves. So when bison were being overhunted and there wasn't enough bison around for wolves, then wolves started turning to something that was similar, and that was cattle, or the cows that people were keeping at their house as their livestock. As you can imagine, this did not make the ranchers or livestock keepers very happy, as that cut into their livelihood and how they took care of their families. So, for the past almost 80 years, we have not had any wolves in the state of Colorado other than ones that have come all by themselves just over our borders, but no solid populations. The good news is that in our mountain range ecosystem that we have right here in Colorado, we are already set up for the perfect habitat for wolves. Hopefully in the future, wolves will be able to make their home back here in Colorado, and we can see these beautiful creatures out in the wild once more. Recently at the zoo, we welcomed a moose calf that was orphaned in Alaska. He is now 12 weeks old, and we are so excited to have him here with us. You can see right now he's just trying to eat some food from his keeper's hand. Also, this little guy right here, this is Arthur, a new turkey who was hatched in this same exhibit. So we now have Arthur and Atka, who will get to grow up together in our Rocky Mountain Wild enclosures. Since our moose calf is still young and a mammal, he would normally drink milk from his mom. So he's still on bottles here with us while he is learning to enjoy his browse and his grain and the other foods that he would eat as an adult moose, but he still really loves his bottle, as you can tell in this video. Male moose grow antlers all throughout their lifetime. That's how we can tell the difference between males and females. So Atka is also going to grow his very own antlers, and every year he will get a new set of antlers. So just like these ones here, every year he will drop his old antlers and grow a newer, bigger, impressive set on top of his head. Across from our moose exhibit, we have our North American porcupines. In this video, you will see Kale and Quilliam, and as you can tell, they are pretty good climbers. So although their body is covered in quills to help protect them, porcupines also spend a lot of their time high up in the trees, as this is where they feel safest from their predators.
Over in this area, we actually have Canada lynx. And that sounds a little funny because we're talking about animals that are in Colorado, and the animal, a Canada lynx, in the name it says Canada, right? This is not Canada, but historically they can come this far down. They come across all of North America. And so we actually do find Canada lynx in Colorado, though it's pretty rare, and even if they are here, it's really hard to see them, much like our mountain lions too. A lot of large cats that we would find in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado are much better at seeing us than we are at seeing them. So even in this exhibit, I can see two right now, but I've been here for quite a few minutes, and it has taken me some time to train my eyes to look around to see where they could be. So they're really good at camouflaging. They blend in really well with their environment, and that's going to help them to not only protect themselves from predators, because they are kind of smaller, but also to sneak up on any prey that they might want to eat as well. Another animal that we might find as we are out spending time in the water in Colorado is the river otter.
So if you happen to be kayaking or tubing or rafting down a river, there is a chance that you could come across a river otter. They do spend a lot of their time in the water because they're such good swimmers. And as you can see, all of those little air bubbles that are actually coming off their body as they move through the water, a lot of that is coming from their nose, but a lot of it is also coming from their fur, as their fur is water wicking and it propels that water away from them to help keep them dry and not get wet and cold like maybe our dogs would if they were swimming in the river.
So that awesome call that you guys just heard is our bald eagle, Ouray. And Ouray was hatched in 1992. So she's a little bit older, but that call is so fun to hear. And I'm really glad that you got a chance to, because usually in the movies, they don't show that particular call because it's not as majestic sounding. So they actually dub it over with a red-tailed hawk. But I think it's pretty impressive, the sound that our bald eagles do make. So here in Colorado, a lot of people think that bald eagles, we all know the story about them kind of being endangered and almost going extinct. We have made significant recovery progress in that, and here in Colorado, it's actually fairly common to see them out and about. The other thing with that is that since they are around and we do often see them, and just like other birds, they tend to molt their feathers. That we might find bald eagle feathers while we are out on hikes or just exploring nature. But interestingly enough, all bald eagle artifacts and individuals are actually owned by the United States government. So to pick up and kind of take any of those feathers home with us is actually illegal. So if you do happen to find any on the trails, I would recommend just kind of leaving it there, leaving nature as we found it, or making sure that you turn it into the proper authorities. Here we find ourselves in our grizzly bear enclosure where we have our friends Emmett and Digger. And we're going to talk about grizzly bears because they might not live in Colorado anymore, but they once did. So this was an animal that we would historically see in these regions. So high up in the mountains, kind of running around with the black bears. So now here we usually only see black bears. But grizzly bears used to come this far down south, but just over time, due to population from humans, development, over hunting, unfortunately, those species or grizzlies have moved up further north. So now here in North America, we do see them up in Canada and Alaska, and a little bit further, I think in like the Yellowstone area of like top of Wyoming, northern Wyoming, and southern Montana. They can even come about that far down. But all the way back down here in Colorado, we just unfortunately do not see them here anymore because of all of the people and development that we do have in this area. Thankfully, we still have our black bears, but that's why we wanted to point out how cool these grizzly bears were. As you can see, Emmett and Digger really enjoy their homes here. So this is perfect habitat for grizzly grizzlies. We just don't see them naturally coming this far down south anymore these days.
Just like the otters that we saw up in Rocky Mountain Wild, this beaver also has water wicking fur, so beavers spend a lot of their time in the water as well. Our beaver Ginger, who you see swimming here, loves swimming in her pool, but she actually enjoys swimming in her pool when it is raining more or towards the end of the day. She spends a lot of the time sleeping during the beginning portion of the day, but in the afternoon likes to go for a nice dip in her pool or for walks with her keepers. In the wild, beavers will go and chop down trees or branches, and they will use that to make their dens and also to eat. So Ginger here is a really unique beaver because she's actually allergic to quite a few types of wood, which would make it pretty hard for her to live successfully on her own in the wild. So she acts as an ambassador here at the zoo to help educate humans about her species in the wild. This next animal that we are taking a look at is actually Colorado's state amphibian as of 2012. So this is the western tiger salamander, also sometimes referred to as the barred tiger salamander. And these guys are fairly common out across the state of Colorado, but a lot of people don't see them very often. That's because they hang out near bodies of water like lakes and rivers and ponds, and they're really good at burrowing. So they spend a lot of their time kind of down in the dirt, underneath logs or underneath rocks, because they're not very fast creatures. So they're hiding a lot of the time, and then when they do need to eat, they kind of are opportunists, and they wait for small insects or crickets or anything like that, slugs maybe, to come near them, and then they will eat. Another animal that we might run into here in Colorado are skunks. Now, most people are not really excited to run into a skunk because there's the potential that their dog or their pet might have gotten sprayed, or they themselves might have gotten sprayed. But outside of that, skunks are actually really helpful. Instead of being pests, they help to control pests. So these guys are opportunists as well, just looking for meals that they come across, and a lot of times that comes in the form of those insects that we don't really like to have around. Although originally seen in Virginia and thus getting the name Virginia opossum, opossums are found all across North America, including here in Colorado sometimes. And these animals also tend to get a little bit of a bad rap. They too can be considered pests for getting into people's garbage or chicken coops or different things like that, but again are actually super helpful to our environment. These little animals actually have 55 teeth in their mouth, and that comes in handy for eating a variety of things, but one of the most helpful is that these animals eat ticks and fleas, which is super helpful for humans and our pets because ticks and fleas can spread diseases, and that can harm either us or our pets that we have at home. So having opossums around helps keep the population numbers of ticks and fleas and other insects down to help protect us.
Thank you so much for joining us on our tour today. We hope you had lots of fun exploring the zoo and learning all about animals. We hope that you had a lot of fun and that you have a good rest of your day.